Welcome back, everyone. It's good to see all of you on Zoom. Once again, for many of you, you may choose to go into gallery view to see members of our community at this time of isolation. That's why I actually have a laptop so that I can kind of screen through. Even though we're on multiple links, it's nice to see the members of our community. Some of you I saw at 8 o'clock in the morning for yoga, 9 o'clock the morning blessings, 10 o'clock Torah and Haftarah. And now here we are, ready to prepare ourselves for the High Holy Day liturgy of Unatana Tokef, a prayer that I mentioned yesterday evening, that chilling prayer that asks, who shall live and who shall die, and ultimately concludes that despite life's uncertainty, we can control our lives by living lives of meaning, through tzedakah, through giving, through teshuvah, through repentance, and through tefillah, through worship, as we do now, reaching out to something beyond ourselves. So I'm glad you're with us. I'm in the sanctuary. Cantor Zell and Noah Aronson are in neatly constructed plexiglass boxes so that they can sing safely. And so I want to thank our reentry committee, our administrative team, especially Stephen Ashkenos, for all of the hard work for making this possible. It's pretty extraordinary. We fit on the bima, but also alongside of me is Rabbi Sherman in our sanctuary, who will be delivering the sermon. And taking extra precautions are Rabbi Sapphire, who is in her office, but will help lead our service. Rabbi Sapphire, good to see you. And our rabbinic intern, Ryan Lesner, who's with us this year, is in the Beit Midrash in front of our ark from our old building. Good to have you here, Ryan. And let's begin to center ourselves at home and remember that it's not always easy to be on Zoom. And so let's be gentle on ourselves. Let's be gentle on others. And let's begin to pray. Because as we know, we've been given a gift. It's an ancient one, passed down through the generations. And that is our tradition. And today it continues a little differently, but our mission continues to be the same. To do justice, to love mercy, to walk humbly with God. And so let's begin. If you have a prayer book in front of you or one of the e-books or the flip books, I invite you to join with me for Unatana Tokef on page 174. If you don't have a prayer book, that's okay. Just listen. Listen and take in these ancient words spoken throughout the centuries. Page 174. Uvachein, and so, let these words of sanctity ascend to you, for you are our God and sovereign. Let us proclaim the power of this day, Unatana Tokef Kedushat Hayom, a day whose holiness awakens deepest awe and inspires highest praise for your dominion. For your throne is a throne of love. Your reign is a reign of truth. We continue listening to the words of Unatana Tokef.
Unatana Tokef Kedushat Hayom כי הוא נורא ויום, ובו תינשא מלכותך, וייכון בחסד כיסאך, ותשב עליו באמת, אמת כי אתה הוא דיין ומוכיח ויודע ושופר גדול ייתקע, וקול דממה דקה יישמע, ומלאכים יחפזו, וכאילו רעדה יאחזו, ומלאכים יחפזו, וכאילו רעדה יאחזו. בראש השנה ייכתבו, וביום צום כיפור יחתמו. בראש השנה ייכתבו, וביום צום כיפור יחתמו. כמה יעברו וכמה בראש השנה ייכתבו, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמו. בראש השנה ייכתבו, וביום צום כיפור ייחתמו. ותשובה ותפילה וצדקה מעבירים את רוע הגזירה.
Page 178, the translation. On Rosh Hashana, this is written. On the fast of Yom Kippur, this is sealed. How many will pass away from this world? How many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? Who will reach the ripeness of age? Who will be taken before their time? Who by fire and who by water? Who by war and who by beast? Who by famine and who by drought? Who by earthquake and who by plague? Who by strangling and who by stoning? Who will rest and who will wander? Who will be tranquil and who will be troubled? Who will be calm and who tormented? Who will live in poverty and who in prosperity? Who will be humbled and who exalted? But through return to the right path, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. If you're able, please rise for Avinu Malkeinu, page 224.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Kalei Dever, V'cherev v'ra'av, Me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kalei Chotzor, Shema Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu masim, Asei manu, Tzedaka v'chesed, Asei manu, Tzedaka v'chesed, Ve'hoshienu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu masim.
If you're standing at home, I invite you to take your seat once again. Just a brief word before Rabbi Sherman shares words of Torah. I guess it's been 30 years since I was in rabbinical school, and I remember one of my true mentors and rabbis teaching me something. He said to me, Joel, never thank someone for participating in the service. They should be thanking you. So if they're called for an aliyah, don't thank them for reading Torah. It's an honor. They should thank you. And with each year since that time, I realized how wrong he was. That it's always a good thing to thank people. Thank. And I just want us to take time to thank Cantor Zell, wherever you are. There you are. I want us just to take a moment to thank you for all of your hard work. You may not be able to see her. Oh, she's on the corner, so you can't see her now. She's out of her plexiglass box, unmasked, along with Noah. But I just want to thank her because no one would have envisioned this would be the way to begin your senior cantorate at Temple Beth Elohim. There is a lot of weight on the shoulders of a clergy person, not just in leading services, but holding the hands of people who are suffering, not only suffering from illness, but suffering from the stresses of our day, from unemployment, from loneliness. The needs of being clergy are great, and you have risen to the occasion and led us so beautifully throughout the season. While I'm thanking people, I want to thank our musicians, Ben and Noam and Victor. I want to thank Noah Aronson, of course. How many years now, Noah? 15? That's a long time. Rabbi Sherman, Rabbi Sapphire, Ryan Lesner, and really, I wish they could turn the cameras on themselves. Our production team is really, Stephen, you were right. I doubted it. And this is an incredible way to connect our community during this time. So thank you, and then thank you to everyone in our community for supporting Temple Beth Elohim with your time, with your membership. This is a hard time for all of us, and to see each other, lift each other up is incredibly meaningful and valuable. So with that, I'm going to put my mask on and sit down, and let's learn from Rabbi Sherman.
And thank you, Rabbi Sistenwine, for your leadership and inspiration. Pulled over in Short Hills, New Jersey, 8 a.m., a poem by Ross Gay. It's the shivering when rage grows hot as an army of red ants and forces the mind to quiet the body. The quakes emerge, sometimes just the knees, but at worst through the hips, chest, neck, until, like a virus slipping inside the lungs and pulse, every ounce of strength tapped to squeeze words from my taut lips, his eyes scanning my car's insides, my eyes, my license. As I answer the questions 3, 4, 5 times, my jaw tight as a vice, his hand massaging the gun, I imagine things I don't want to, and inside beg this to end, before the shiver catches my hands, and he sees, and something happens. There's a famous rabbinic teaching that in utero, every person learns all of Torah, all the values, morals, and ethics that should guide our lives. The teaching goes that at the moment of birth, one of God's angels descends and with a single touch to the upper lip, causes the child to forget all that was learned. All that is left behind is a soft indentation between the nose and the mouth, and a blueprint for our moral conscience in this world. And so we spend our lives on a journey to relearn and reincorporate that which we once knew. And in this process, we walk a path of teshuvah towards self-growth. There's always more to learn. We are all works in progress. But deep inside our souls, we know, and we've always known, what is just and right. In our country's foundational document, the Declaration of Independence, it says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." But looking at the evolution of our nation up to and including this moment, we realize equality is in fact not self-evident. For we live in a world where some of the fundamental principles we are taught as truths are actually quite untrue. The experience that Rosh shares in his poem of being pulled over as a black man is not equality. The 3/5 compromise, redlining, this is not equality. The mass incarceration of black men who are disproportionately imprisoned compared to their white counterparts, it's not equality. Unequal COVID outcomes for people of color, which reflects a 2 times higher death rate than white Americans, it's not equality. Black women who are 3 to 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women, it's not equality. There are gross disparities in education and income and housing and access to fresh food. This is not equality. And there's police brutality, where black Americans are shot and killed by police at more than twice the rate of white Americans. And this is surely not equality. And so, how amidst such brokenness, such deep ingrained and systemic racism, will we give life, breath, to equality, so that our country will reflect the truth that Black lives matter? When I say that Black lives matter, I mean Black lives are important and worthy and valued. Whether we are Democrats or Republicans, conservative or liberal, we can all agree that Black lives must matter because that's what's moral and right. As Jews, we know the value of each person, and we have a responsibility to make that clear and join the fight, this civil rights movement of our time, the drive to end racial injustice in our country. Yes, it's true. There are elements within the movement for Black lives that have been connected to BDS, the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. And I, too, remain concerned about this issue. And I will always speak up and speak out against anti-Semitism wherever it is found. And this is a learning process for all involved. Yet we also know that making change in social justice takes hard work and deep relationship building, in which we all become vulnerable. And the experience can feel messy along the way. But no matter where we are on the political spectrum, and I know an election is coming up, that does not negate our Jewish responsibility to promote justice and equality. So how will we use our privilege in this moment to move closer to the fundamental truth of equality? Standing here on Rosh Hashana, looking ahead at these next 10 days and beyond, we are offered the gift of teshuvah, an opportunity to reconcile ourselves with the truth. Our teshuvah is important, not just on a personal level, when we repent and seek forgiveness in our own lives, but also on a more global scale in the pursuit of justice. Our teshuvah matters. In the Talmud, there's an extraordinary disagreement between the rabbis Hillel and Shammai, who ask, what should we do if a house is built with or on the foundation of a stolen beam? In a teaching, Rabbi Sharon Brous summarized this dispute beautifully, saying, Shammai argues we must tear down the house to retrieve the beam and return it to its rightful owner. You can't build something beautiful on a lie. But Hillel has a different take, she says. What sense does it make to demolish that place? Let the thief pay for the beam, considering its full value as the foundation of a beautiful home. Both rabbis insist something must be done to rectify the injury. That is the only way for justice to be served. When we say Black Lives Matter, we acknowledge our country is in part built upon the foundation of 400 years of inequity and inequality. Our founding fathers invoked divine providence over this nation, and I believe in the possibility of creating a society where the sparks of all human beings are fully illuminated, guiding us closer to one another and to God. And we can begin to achieve this aspirational holiness by naming the broken truths around us. For in this journey towards truth and reconciliation, we engage in teshuvah. Since the murder of George Floyd in May, our country has seen a reckoning with race. We've witnessed incredible movement to reconcile racial disparities and lay bare the historical truths that America has lived with for so long. This process of reconciliation has begun to produce tangible change in policing and public life, in entertainment and sports, and these things matter. And I'm filled with optimism by the pace of this change, as many anti-racist paths have been forged in just a few short months after racist policies carried on since the founding of our country. But I can't let go of the question, why did it take so long? And I believe it's because owning up to the truth is hard. Owning up to the truth means recognizing that when we have said all men are created equal, we haven't lived up to that. Starting with the omission of women from this statement. Truth is admitting that our country has created a life where Black individuals can feel like they don't matter. Truth is recognizing that many of us benefit from generations of slavery and racist structures, practices, and policies. That there is a stolen beam under the foundation on which we have built. Maimonides teaches us that true teshuvah is finding ourselves in a situation for a second time and making a different choice. In our teshuvah toward repairing racial inequality, what different choices will we make? How will we act to help guide our country to make different choices? How will we change the course of history after 1, 2, 100 repetitions of wrongdoing? Awareness of the truth gives way to change. Our teshuvah matters. The first step for me on this journey has been learning and listening to others' stories and being in dialogue with people different from me. For reconciling the truth means more than just recognizing what is already apparent to us. It's also opening ourselves up to the truths we haven't experienced and listening deeply to the truths that we can only begin to understand. In our tradition, the word truth, emet, comes most famously after the Shema, a prayer speaking to the power of listening In this core prayer are two unique letters that the scribes of the Torah wanted to emphasize. These two letters, Ayin at the end of the first word and Daled at the end of the last word, ensure that we pronounce the Shema correctly. But together they also create the word Eid, which means witness. This central text in our tradition reminds us that the way to truth is through listening, through witnessing. Only after we stand witness and truly listen do we arrive at the truth. And by doing this truth work, by doing this work of teshuvah, we are showing the world what it means when we say that someone matters. We respect and give weight. We bear witness and listen. We walk together and return to a path of goodness and righteousness. And this is not easy. In fact, the High Holy Days are about standing amidst discomfort. My own discomfort in this moment is recognizing that I gave a sermon on this very topic 4 years ago. And Rabbi Sissenwein spoke about racial justice last year. And since that time, things in our country have only gotten worse. There is still so much for us to do. And yet, teshuvah is an extraordinary gift, and we can share it with the world by the way that we prioritize equality and justice now. And I'm proud that so many in our community are already engaged in this work through our Racial Justice Initiative, which creates educational programs that increase our understanding of the pervasiveness of racism and offers opportunities to awaken our own unconscious behaviors and attitudes. RJI is helping to develop anti-bias and anti-racist training for our staff and community, and continues to encourage advocacy efforts, which help us put into action anti-racist policies. We also continue to foster our connection to communities of color in Boston's Grove Hall neighborhood, as well as nurture meaningful relationships through our Partakers Prison program. And another amazing example of the impact of RJI is our involvement in the Religious Action Center's nonpartisan Every Voice, Every Vote initiative, which has mobilized almost 200 TBE congregants to send over 14,000 postcards to low-propensity and disenrolled voters across the country. Along with the Reform movement and over 800 URJ congregations, together we walk a path towards becoming a fully anti-racist community of Reformed Jews. Even more change can happen when each of us, wherever we are, makes a choice this year to engage in this critical work. As a first step, I ask each of us to take time over the next 10 days to reflect on our teshuvah, to listen, to learn, to explore how we will engage in this work. And more resources will be coming to you soon. Ijoma Oluo, the author of So You Want to Talk About Race, writes, "The beauty of anti-racism is that you don't have to pretend to be free of racism to be an anti-racist. Anti-racism is the commitment to fight racism wherever you find it, including in yourself. And that's the only way forward." See, we don't have to be perfect, blameless, guiltless to be an anti-racist, but we must do something. Our tradition teaches us that we may not be able to complete the work, but neither are we free to abstain from it. We must allow our teshuvah to transform ourselves and our world. This is our Jewish obligation. And so in this new year of 5781, may we return to our most fundamental truths, the truths bestowed upon us before we even came in this world. With the work of teshuvah, we can return again to the blueprint for moral living, the moral living that we possess within ourselves, in our hearts, and in our souls. Our teshuvah matters. Justice and equality depend on it. Shana Tova.
songwriter and activist Susan Durant set music to the words of an ancient Chinese proverb. And Cantor Zell and I then attached some Hebrew text to these words. Darchei Noam v'chol netivoteha shalom, that when we look within our tradition, we find a long chain that leads us towards goodness, that leads us towards the recognition that when there is light in the soul, there is beauty in the person. When there is beauty in the person, there is harmony in the whole. When there is harmony in the whole, there is honor in the nation. When there is honor in the nation, there is peace in the world. When there is light in the soul, there is beauty in the person. There is beauty in the person. There is harmony in the whole. When there is harmony in the whole, there is honor in the nation. There is honor in the nation. There is peace in the world. Darchei Noam, Darchei Noam, v'chol netivoteha shalom. Darchei Noam, Darchei Noam, v'chol netivoteha shalom. When there is light in the soul, there is beauty in the person. There is beauty in the person. There is harmony in the whole. When there is harmony in the whole, there is honor in the nation. There is honor in the nation. There is peace in the world.
We return to our prayer books now for the words of Mourner's Kaddish. They can be found on page 292. And as has been our custom throughout the pandemic, while we've had services from home, we'll open the chat box now, and if you can type in the names of those individuals you're remembering. But first, we'd like to invite the mourners in our midst to recognize themselves by raising a hand on Zoom. If you've lost a relative at this season in years past, or you've lost a parent during the past 11 months, or you've lost an immediate family member during the past 30 days. Of course, we recall a Jewish fighter for justice, Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg, on this day, as well as all of those individuals listed in our chat box this morning, as together the mourners in our midst help lead us with words of Mourner's Kaddish, page 292, or if we can also place them on the screens. Now that you can see them on the screens, if those in our sanctuary can join me with the words Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. B'yamad yivrach rutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'cho Beit Yisrael b'agalav izman kariv imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam omei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yithromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei Kudshah B'richu le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran b'yamav v'imru amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen.
If you're standing, please be seated. And in this hybrid approach to the High Holy Days, some of you will probably be joining us on temple property to hear the sound of the shofar. Of course, we need you to have had pre-registered wearing a mask, and we are going to make sure that we're physically distant by pod. And so we really ask you to honor the greeters and the needs of our community to preserve our safety, and come at the time for which you've registered. If you're unable to come, then we invite you to hear the shofar on Zoom. We're going to continue very soon with a brief shofar service that will be the same shofar service that we'll be doing outside. And then we'll hear the fuller shofar service during services tomorrow, the second day of Rosh Hashana. So tomorrow's schedule is 9 o'clock morning blessings, as we did today, 10 o'clock Torah and Haftarah, and then 11 o'clock our High Holy Day blessings. But on that day, tomorrow, we'll have the full shofar service as well. I encourage you, there are amazing resources that we've created for you online, Babait. That's the theme this year, Babait. We need to engage Jewishly and in the world from home. So with that in mind, we've created a number of resources. The one I want to call your attention to now is a podcast for Tashlich, that ritual of casting sins into the Charles. We hope you'll do that on your own. It's an extraordinary 15-minute podcast. Then we have also a guided walking meditation of music provided by Cantor Zell, Cantor Suffren, and Noah Aronson. I hope you'll download the music. You'll see a number of resources coming your way that have been created by Yaldenu, TGIHH. The service will be at 11. And for those of you who were not able to hear the sermon last night, we'll provide that on our link right here after our brief shofar service today. Because in that sermon, you'll hear about the exercise that our community is engaging in during these next 10 days to create our own Temple Beth Elohim, Book of Life, a compilation of our responses to the 4 questions asked in heaven. So if you haven't heard the sermon, I invite you to stick around on Zoom. If you have, perhaps you want to spend this afternoon journaling a little bit. I'd encourage you to journal outside. Today is truly glorious as I look outside of our sanctuary windows. Finally, remember our High Holy Day food drive. Even though we're not in the building, it's really important that you send in your checks that we then forward to a number of food banks in our community. A number of food banks, and the needs are only greater this year, really depend on TBE. We provide a large amount of their annual budget during this time. Finally, please make sure you're receiving your emails from the temple. There are a few spots left at Gan Elohim, something we're proud that we have our small children in our building each day in a safe environment, and a couple spots are still left. And I hope you'll take a look at your bulletin and broadcasts, because each and every day there's learning taking place. And as we discussed last night, our numbers are higher than ever before and growing due to the accessibility of some of our learning opportunities on Zoom. So we really hope you'll engage with us this year. 5,781. What we'd like to do now is to provide you with a taste of the shofar service. We have a number of shofar sounders. Rabbi Sherman has worked very hard gathering them. So you want to just share a word about our multitude of shofar sounders?
We have shofar sounders of every age who are going to be different sounders for each of our outdoor services, and we have two different ones. Today, Ben Wright, due to safety concerns, we can't sound shofar in our sanctuary, but he and I were in the courtyard, and we recorded him sounding our shofar sounds for us to enjoy this morning.
So the words of the shofar service, Uru, Uru, awake, awake, you slumberers. The shofar is our call to justice, our call to holiness, our call to Torah, our call to service. Let's join together.
Gai lai, ya lai la lai lai, ya la lai, ya lai, ya la lai lai, gai lai, ya lai, ya lai lai, ya la lai, ya lai, ya la lai lai, ya la lai, ya lai lai, ya la lai, ya lai, ya la lai lai.
We awake to this day. We awake to this year.
In the 7th month, on the first day of the month, there shall be a sacred assembly.
ובחודש השביעי, באחד לחודש, מקרא קודש יהיה לכם.
A cessation from work, a day of commemoration.
כל מלאכת עבודה לא תעשו.
Proclaimed by the sound of the shofar.
יום תרועה יהיה לכם.
Uru uru yishenim.
Uru uru yisheni. Uru uru yisheni. Uru uru yisheni. Uru uru yisheni. Uru
wake me up so I can prepare. Listen to my prayer. Hear my voice, I know you understand. Wake me to this year. Ya-la-la-la-la, 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 ya-la-la-la-la,
So for those who can't join us for hearing the sound of the shofar beginning at 1:15 through 5 o'clock or tomorrow afternoon, we continue with our shofar calls. Once again, we encourage you to make a careful choice. Please don't come if you have any symptoms or you're immunocompromised or uncomfortable. The mitzvah of hearing the shofar this year will take place on Zoom from your home. And so there will be a number of opportunities to hear the sound of the shofar. Ben will do so very soon, as he's been pre-recorded, along with many others at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. And so there'll be ample opportunity to hear the sound of the shofar. But now, for our first call of shofar blasts of the season, on page 206, we continue by listening to the blessings for the call of the shofar.
Try that again with my mic on. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishma kol shofar.
Amen. And Shechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shechianu v'kiyemanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
And Ben?
If you're seated and you're able, I invite you to rise.
Here we go. Okay, wait a minute. That's the first time I've seen Ben sound the shofar. So he's our newest shofar sounder, and all I heard was from Ben that he had this tiny little shofar, and we weren't allowed to loan him another shofar because of COVID. And so he would make do with his tiny little shofar. And what I've learned from Ben is it doesn't hurt when you're the second trumpet in the Boston Symphony. Somehow, I guess you possess these skills of sounding the shofar. So Ben, that's a big yasher koach. I don't think you need the big shofar. Beautifully done. So to a good year, let us conclude with Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Let us build this world from love.
Olam chesed yibaneh, yalai, 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 yalai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yalai, 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 yalai.
TGIHH will be led by Rabbi Sapphire at 1 o'clock. We hope that you'll join in Tashlich this afternoon. We'll see some of you at our shofar sounding. We'll see others tomorrow morning. Let's conclude with Let There Be Love. Sound motions on sound motions, signs,
We got
hand
it.
motions.
We got it.
And our
on-
voices.
on Zoom.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. Let there be love. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm.
Good Yentov, Shana Tova. We'll see you soon.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Tova.